Welcome to Murder Monday. Yes, it's Monday. Don't argue with me. It is Monday. Hola guys, it's Kat. So in this case, we are going to be talking about some triggering stuff, sexual assault and rape. If that is a trigger for you, I'll see you in the next video. It's totally fine. But let's get right into this case. During the holiday season, Christmas parties are a way to start off the festivities. The night of December 22nd, 1981 was the first company Christmas party for Rhonda Hinson, who is 19 years old at the time. Rhonda had recently graduated from Valdez, I think I said that right, in high school in North Carolina. And she was celebrating her first clerical job at a steel factory. At midnight, Rhonda dropped her friends off after the party and decided that she was going to make the 10-mile drive home, where she did live with her parents. At exactly 1 a.m., Judy Hinson, Rhonda's mother, woke up from a sound sleep with a very weird vision. I woke up feeling panicky, scared, because I felt like something had happened to Rhonda. I felt like Rhonda was dead. I felt she had been in an automobile accident. You guys, mother's intuition / woman's intuition is a very real thing. Very real. I can't tell y'all how many times my mother did something like this to me and how many times I have done something like that to my loved ones. Rhonda's car was found half a mile from her house. The driver's side door was open and a few feet away was Rhonda's body. She was lying on her back. Her arms seemed to be deliberately placed at her side. Rhonda had been killed by a single bullet that went through her heart. The murder of Rhonda Hinson at first seemed to be a random act of violence, but police made some quick realizations. As the investigation went on, clues surfaced that suggested that Rhonda might have been killed by somebody that she knew. There were fingerprints found on the driver's side door. They were ran through and there was never a match made. Rhonda was popular in high school. She was a tennis player and had been described as a ray of sunshine. However, several weeks after graduation, Rhonda started to act strange. She usually didn't have a problem traveling alone. She started asking her father, Bobby, to accompany her on her trips to town. During one of these trips to town, she told Bobby that she had something to tell him and that it was bad. Bobby said it didn't matter what it was, that she could talk to him. She said she would think about it, and unfortunately she never got the chance to tell her father what was wrong. Judy, her mother, also recalled having a very strange conversation with Rhonda. Randomly, Rhonda asked her mother if it was ever okay to be involved with the married man. Her mother said it was never okay and that would only end in somebody getting hurt. Judy didn't know if she was asking that for herself or if she was asking because of a friend. In the weeks prior to Rhonda's murder, Judy and Bobby had noticed that Rhonda seemed to have insomnia. She began getting up in the middle of the night and she would take showers. She told Judy that it was because she felt dirty. According to police, this is behavior that's usually shown from somebody suffering sexual abuse, and it suggested to police that she was under some sort of pressure. Police also discovered evidence that suggested that Rhonda was being stalked the night of her murder. Between 12:15 and 12:30 a.m., a witness had drove under the Interstate 40 bridge on Mineral Springs Mountain Road. She observed a blue GM Chevrolet facing the north with 2 white men inside. It was parked in the same off-ramp that Rhonda would be using later to exit. Spotted 30 minutes before she was shot and 200 yards from where her body would be found. Later that evening, a witness would drive down the road and spot a similar vehicle with a single man inside. As he continued down the road, he saw Rhonda's car in the same spot it would be found later. She was slumped over the wheel with an unidentified man standing on the driver's side. He was unable to get a closer look at them, but he had assumed that they were a drunk couple, and he continued on his way. Many years have passed since that Christmas party ended in tragedy, but Rhonda's mother still keeps her daughter's room exactly the same. I can almost imagine Rhonda still in there. We have a baby doll that she had years and years ago. We've kept that out. We've kept some of her trophies out. The grave marker, I think, says it all. On the grave marker, there are always a ray of sunshine. That's the best description that we have of Rhonda. It's a perfect description. A $2,000 reward has been offered for any information on this case, and still nothing. Little side note here, there was mentions of an ex-boyfriend or possible current boyfriend. I could not find anything about them, like, at all. There was no mention about an alibi, like, there was no mention if him or his family had a weapon similar to what had killed Rhonda. Nothing. It was just, the only thing that there really was that he had been cleared, and he's really never mentioned again. I'm actually not even sure what his name is. So let's get into some theories here. The first theory I have wrote down here is that maybe a boss or a co-worker was this married man who was possibly abusing and raping Rhonda. I have a feeling if there's something going on with another person, it was not consensual, just judging off of her behavior. I get the vibe that somebody was abusing and possibly harassing her. And maybe this person's wife found out, got angry, and sent somebody to take care of her. Or maybe this person was like an unwanted stalker or something who assaulted her, and she didn't know what to do, who to talk to. A lot of victims blame themselves, because I feel like some of this weird behavior was her feeling guilty and seeming to be responding to abuse. Maybe they were like obsessed with her or something and then ended up killing her. So the next theory is that this supposed ex or slash current boyfriend thought that something was going on, got jealous, and killed her. Or maybe he was the one who was harassing and sexually abusing her, and like maybe things in their relationship had really escalated, and because a lot of times that is not always how those relationships start. Sometimes it takes a while, and then all of a sudden the person who you thought they were isn't who they were. Another theory is because of the precision that it would have took to make that shot, this shot went through the trunk, through the back of her seat, and through her heart. That type of shot would have taken skill, like a hitman. But why would a hitman be after a 19-year-old girl? Maybe a hitman mistook her for someone else. I mean, it was 1 a.m., it was dark. She would not have been conscious. It wasn't like she crawled out of the car. Somebody out there does in fact know something. Like, let's say it was a random stray bullet. Somebody still took her out of the car. And maybe they took her out of the car to see if she was okay, realized she was dead, panicked even though maybe they didn't have anything to do with it, and left. Somebody knows something. And maybe they panicked and left because they knew that they would get blamed. Because there was nobody else around. There was no evidence of anything. I understand, but at the same time, I don't know. If I was in that situation or something weird like that happened, I found somebody like I was in that situation, found them, tried to get them out, see if I could help them, I would have just waited for police, because this was the 80s. Did they even have cell phones? Hopefully I wouldn't have got blamed, but if I didn't have a gun or anything on me, then obviously I didn't do it. Hi, I just kept these theories in because I guess for options, but I found some stuff out. I found the name of the boyfriend, and so then I was able to find an article. The boyfriend's name was Greg McDowell. They started dating in high school junior year, and at first everything was fine. They, you know, nice, happy relationship. But then the next year, things got not so great, not so nice. Rhonda started acting weird. She wasn't so much a ray of sunshine like she had been. From what I understand, Greg was very possessive and kind of mean. He used to leave these notes, you know, this is the 80s. He used to leave little, like, love notes for her. And that first year they were sweet, but the next year they started getting creepy and making, like, underlined threats. Because when she stopped smiling and being all super happy, he was like, "Where's that smile I like? Remember, I have a gun." Like a joke. He was making a joke out of it, but it was like a passive threat. And if she talked to anybody, he would get so angry. She like couldn't even go buy nice things for herself. He would get mad, and like this is how their relationship was. Clearly not very healthy. In some of those notes, by the way, Rhonda would respond, because one of them, he like apologized for hitting her, and her response was about how he like hurt her lip or whatever, and she's like, "I'm no longer your fuzzy lassie," which is like a weird nickname I guess he had for her. So there's suggestion that their relationship had physical altercations. He seems to be possessive. He seems to be not a nice dude. So then senior year passes, and Rhonda's best friend Jill went to college, and so did Greg. Well, then every time Greg came to visit, he would get like, he would really dig into her business and like spying on her, reading her diaries, just being so possessive and jealous with her. And he started commenting on her weight a lot, like trying to tell her like, "Oh, you better lose a couple pounds by the time next time I see you," and like just really not nice at all. And by the way, Greg drove a blue Nova that was beat up and had gray primer on it. At the beginning of this video, I might have just said it was a blue GM or something like that, but one of the descriptions of the car that was seen the night of her death was that it had gray primer on it and that the front of it was messed up. Another weird thing was that Greg's dad, Charles McDowell, who was the pastor there, was very creepy towards Rhonda. He would like be touchy on her. He would kept trying to like kind of like brush on her, touch, like she didn't like to sit next to him when they had supper because he would try to like touch her leg under the table, and just in general really made her uncomfortable because she didn't like him being touchy, and he was always watching and creeping on her. That was, you know, that's another thing to note, because ew. On the night that Rhonda had died, people noticed that Greg was like freshly showered and clean shaved, not making eye contact with anybody. When Rhonda was mentioned to Greg, he threw up. And we're going to continue with the weird things. Charles was the one who led Rhonda's funeral. Okay, what the heck? Very weird. And while, like, apparently this is like the shortest funeral ever, and when he was up doing like the eulogy talking about Rhonda, he really didn't have much nice things to say. He kind of was playing it off like he really didn't know her. Okay, that's a blatant lie, but he kind of just made it seem like he didn't really know her well, and made a comment that he didn't know if she was in hell or not. Like, they asked him about it later. He's like, "Oh, I didn't mean it in a mean way. I just meant I don't know her religion. Da, 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 da. A lot of good people are in hell." And the music that he picked for the funeral was all about forgiveness and moving on. People asked Judy why she had Charles do the funeral, and Judy said it's because she kind of felt like he killed Rhonda and she was hoping that he would confess.
Whenever Rhonda got mentioned to the McDowells, they didn't show much emotion other than getting angry, which is a very odd reaction to have to your son's girlfriend being murdered. There was a conversation that Charles and Judy had. This is kind of a summed up version of what was said. You should forget about Rhonda and live your life for Bobby and Robbie, which Robbie was her son. A bunch of boys probably got behind Rhonda that night and shot at her. You'll never know who did this, and Rhonda would be dismayed if she knew how her mother was acting. He was trying to like push this whole like, everybody move on, everybody be done with this, forget about this chick, like it's over, it's done with. You'll never find out who did it. And the Hinsons later on hired a private investigator, and the investigators advised them to record any sort of conversations that had to do with Rhonda. And Charles got angry. He stormed over to their house asking them, why did someone just come over to interview me and say that you think that I killed Rhonda? She was like a daughter to me, and Betty was the one who got her job. Like, I cared about her. I loved her, whatever, da 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 da. Which is interesting, since at the funeral you were saying how you really didn't know her. You weren't close to her or anything. But now she was like a daughter to you. Oh, and by the way, Betty McDowell did not get Rhonda her job. They just happened to both be working in the same place. It's a small town. And so when he was asked like where he was at that night, it was like, the explanation he gave really didn't make any sense. It was clearly bullshit. And he kept repeating how they will never figure out who did this to Rhonda. Why he keeps bringing that up and is so adamant about it is very suspicious. People would ask Charles how Greg was doing. He'd be like, Greg's fine. He's going to forget all about Rhonda and move on with his life and be done with this chapter. He's going to be just fine and he's okay. And like just being really weird about it. Oh, and side note, Charles is a hunter. I think that Charles and Greg had something to do with this. My theory is that Greg got upset with Rhonda for whatever reason, and maybe to scare her, since he kept underlining that threat as a joke earlier on in their relationship, maybe he shot at her and accidentally killed her. Like, maybe it wasn't like an intentional thing. He just was angry and just wanted to freak her out. So when she was driving away, because some people were theorizing that she stopped to talk to somebody because her driver's side window was open. And like, it seemed that like, oh, maybe she stopped, talked to somebody, drove away, and got shot. What if Greg was who she was talking to, he got angry, and the way she was going was up a hill, so maybe he was like just trying to scare her and actually hit her. And that's why he's acting so guilty, because he knows exactly what happened to her, but he like can't tell anybody, and like so now the family is like covering it up. That is my personal thought. And his son, because I mean there was reports of 2 white males in that blue car, the same blue car that he drives. Maybe they were together when the stuff was going down. By the way that they're acting, there's just no way that, so I don't know. That family is hella sus, and now you cannot convince me that it wasn't the boyfriend or the boyfriend's dad. I'm leaning more towards Greg did it and his dad was like helping him cover it up and shit. Whatever evidence it is that he seems to be hiding, that he's so sure her murder will never be solved.
Tell me what you guys think about this unsolved mystery. I would love to hear your guys' theory down below. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Won't you rub your fingers down my side?
Rhonda had recently